Hello, and welcome back to Dark Souls Remastered the tutorial. In the last video, I went over some of the core mechanics of the game, some of the weapon stats and the leveling system. I did leave out one thing, however. When I was talking about the endurance stat, I explained that the endurance stat increases the amount of stamina that you have, which it does. However, I didn't mention that it also increases your equipment load. If you're looking to use heavier armor later on in the game, then increasing the amount of endurance that you have will help greatly with that to ensure that you can stay under the 50% barrier that I spoke about in the last video. To begin this video, I will be explaining how to get a couple of useful items right from the start of the game. Make sure to pick up that humanity. I will talk more about humanity in an upcoming video. And if we go up these stairs, we can pick up the fire bombs. This is a nice useful thrown item. Some enemies are weak to fire, so having some fire bombs may be handy. If we progress up these stairs, we can pick up another couple of souls. And we can also find the bottom of an elevator shaft. Now the elevator isn't currently here, however we can jump down the hole and go through to a slightly secret area where we can pick up some homeward bones. There are some other items available, as you can see. I won't pick them up in this run, just simply as I don't need them. Again, there are items dotted about all over the place. It's a good idea to run around this area and pick up those items, as they will help you a little bit later on in the run. Most of them are just souls, however. First place that we will head is a slight detour. It's certainly taken us off the beaten path, but we will be able to pick up a rather nice item. It's going to make the game a little bit easier for us. One thing I will do is equip the homeward bones onto my hotbar so that we can teleport back to a bonfire if we need to. There are a few more souls that we can pick up just to the left of these stairs. And then we will head down into the New Londo ruins. This is a much later area of the game. Certainly wouldn't advise coming here early on, except to pick up this item that we're going to get in a moment. There are a number of ghosts just ahead. We can't beat those ghosts at the moment. We need a certain item to be able to deal damage to them. If we try to deal damage to them now, our weapon will simply pass straight through them. However, if we run down here, and we can pick up this item, which is the Firekeeper Soul, and then just jump off the edge. Make sure before going to New Londo Ruins that you spend your souls at the bonfire, however, if you don't want to waste them if you do end up dying like I just did. The item that we picked up, the Firekeeper Soul, boosts the power of our Estus Flask. What that means is every time we use the flask, it will give us more health back. To apply the upgrade, we need to speak to this maiden and ask her to reinforce our flask. And that's a nice easy way to get a more powerful flask right from the start of the game. You will also notice that I now have 10 Estus Flasks as opposed to 5 that I had earlier. Some of the bonfires in the game, the ones that have a Firekeeper next to them, Firekeeper being the maiden below, will give you 10 Estus Flasks instead of 5. There are ways to upgrade the number of Estus Flasks that you have even further, but we'll get to those later on. When it comes to the combat, if facing multiple opponents, You're going to want to try and pull them into situations where it's just 1v1. This makes the encounter much easier for you. Most enemies, if you run within their sight radius, will start running towards you. As long as you take it slow, you should be able to pull them all apart. Enemy up here will keep throwing fire bombs at you, so don't try to fight the enemy down below. Go and sort this guy out first. And now we can pop back down the stairs and sort the hollow with a sword and shield. There were some more souls here for us to pick up. And as you can see on the underside of the bridge, there is also another item over there. The only way to get there is to jump. In Dark Souls Remastered, there are two different methods for jumping. You can either, depending on your control scheme, hold down the sprint button and then tap the sprint button to jump. I find that control scheme a little bit tricky to use. In the remastered version, they've actually upgraded the control scheme to allow you to jump by pressing in the left analog stick. So now you simply sprint towards the edge, click the button when ready to jump, and you will jump across. The item we're picking up is a Ring of Sacrifice. What this does is if you die, instead of dropping your souls as you usually do, you actually manage to keep the souls on you, but the ring does break. Make sure you pick up every item that you see. Having a nice healthy supply of souls will certainly make the game easier for you. Up ahead is a gate. It's another example of the Dark Souls level design. Most of the areas in the game you can loop back to. This gate only opens from the other side, but once open it will be a nice shortcut to that area. Once again, we'll try and fight these enemies one at a time. Don't forget that the heater shield that we have has 100% block value. If we block an attack, we will take no damage. Before we go through the fog gate, we will do a little bit of exploring to pick up another couple of items. These hollows can't be damaged when they're in their climbing animation. You have to wait till they've finished. The hollows just around here on the ledge can be knocked off for some free souls. This item is rubbish, but it does have a nice use later on. Some fog gates lead to boss arenas, some just lead to the next area of the game. It's fairly simple to learn the layout once you've played the game for a while. The dragon doesn't deal any damage, but he will knock you back if you get too close to him. Again, it's best to take these areas nice and slow. The guy at the top is going to keep shooting arrows at us. To have a nice easy time, we can just pull this guy back out of the range of the crossbowman until we've dealt with him. There is a bonfire here. If you are low on Estus flasks and you need to heal, then feel free to use that one. If not, we can just head straight down here and go to speak to the first vendor in the game. Enemies with shields, you can kick to knock their shield away. Nice easy way to get a kill. The vendor is just through here, however sometimes this undead hollow with the axe can come and get you, so let's just deal with him first to avoid any nasty surprises. I would recommend that you have 2,000 souls on you when you speak to this vendor. What I would say is that the souls that you have in your inventory really stay there. Don't consume them straight away. Save them for when you need them to buy something. The two items that we're looking to buy from this guy are the residence key and the bottomless box. The repair box is also very useful. However, he charges 3,000 souls for the repair box, and a vendor later on will only charge 2,000 souls. Careful with these guys, they can deal a lot of damage in a very quick space of time. But again, you've got the 100% block shield, so you can block all the damage quite comfortably. Make sure that if you attempt to block, that you do have enough stamina, otherwise you may get staggered. Just up these stairs there is a crossbow. I won't be using a crossbow in this run, I will instead be using a regular bow. I think they're much easier to wield and they're much easier to aim with. A bow is certainly not required for this run, but it may make some areas a little bit easier. Now if you haven't started off as the warrior or the knight, you may wish to change the shield that you've started with. And if you want to do that, then the wooden shield from just behind that door is quite a nice shield. It only has a 93% physical reduction, but it is 0.5 lighter than the heater shield. So if you have issues of weight, or if you want a shield that does almost 100% block, that's a great shield to get. We will rest at the bonfire. This will respawn the nearby enemies. But there shouldn't be any problems dealing with those. This guy will sometimes see you as you run past, so we'll deal with him. And then we'll make our way across this bridge. Now there will be enemies throwing fire bombs at you, so don't stay on the bridge for too long. To the right through that gate, another example of the Dark Souls design. That has to be unlocked from the other side. It's one of my favourite things about the game, how it constantly loops back on itself. In this chest we have some black fire bombs. They are an upgraded version of the regular fire bombs. They will deal more damage. They're nice to have in case you run into some difficulties. Another example here of not fighting enemies altogether. Try and pull them apart a little bit. Use the terrain to your advantage. The stairs make it so that only one of them can get to you at a time. There we go. This area is optional. There's just the three guys that were throwing fire bombs at you. but if you kill them you get some souls, so it's well worth doing. Don't be afraid to use your Estus to heal. Much better to consume an Estus than it is to die. We'll pop up here just to get rid of this crossbowman. And then we can see the benefit of getting the residence key from the vendor, as it unlocks this door. Through here there is a very nice chest with a very nice item inside, the gold pine resin. Well worth having this equipped on the bar. We can now use that to increase the power, the damage that the weapon deals. We've only got 3 of them, however, and it only lasts for a limited amount of time. So best to save them for bosses. Again, be patient with the game. Don't rush in. It's not like other games where you can just charge through enemies. Take your time. Fight them one at a time. And as I said in my last video, if you can learn to parry the enemies, it makes the whole game much easier. Down these stairs there's a Black Knight. This is a much tougher enemy than the regular foes that we've been facing. It may be best to leave him. You can fight him if you want to. He has a nice item there. I think the easiest way to beat this guy is to really parry him. If you can learn to parry him, he's quite straightforward. He has one particular attack which is very easy to parry that I'm trying to get him to show off. This is the one. Once he has made that overhead swing, he will always make the reverse swing, which is very easy to exploit, as you can see. Because you know he's going to do it, the parry timing is very simple. You can also get behind him for a backstab that I missed. But using this parry tactic is very simple. There we go. The ring that he drops is certainly not essential. What it will do is, if your health falls to below a certain amount, you'll get a nice big bonus to your defense. It's nice to have, but certainly not required at any point in this run. We're now making our way up to the second boss in this series. Before we get there, in this barrel on the end, there is a creature that we can kill. And this will give us some nice items. This next boss can be a little bit tricky because we have to fight him on this bridge. What you want to do before the encounter to go up this ladder. And deal with these 2 hollows. And then before you head across the bridge, just make sure that you have a heal so you're on full health before the fight begins. Also equip your gold pine resin, as we'll be using this right from the start of the fight. As soon as you see the boss, you want to turn around and run back up the ladder. Now in the last video we used a plunging attack to deal massive damage to the first boss, and we can do the same thing here. Make sure that you buff the weapon first using the gold pine resin. And there we go, a nice third of his health off right from the start. The damage that this weapon deals when it's buffed is very nice. As you can see, just a few swings and he'd be dead. What I will demonstrate to you is some of the boss's abilities. This one of his main attacks, it can easily be rolled through. He also has a jump attack, and once again, you can either roll towards him or roll away from him. If you get too far away from him, he'll probably use his jump attack. This one, you can roll between his legs, it leaves him wide open to a few nice swings. Tactic for this fight is very simple. Let him do an attack, roll through it. If you roll in towards him, you can then usually get a few free swings off before he can recompose himself. But, as I say, all the bosses in this game can kill you if you're not careful. So there we go. I think one of my favourite aspects of the game is that regardless of your skill level, you can quite often get caught out and an enemy that you think is very simple can easily kill you. Then right, after going through that door, we'll go and speak to Solaire. We want to answer yes to both of his questions. He'll then give you the white sign soapstone. That is an item used in online play. You can put down your summoning sign and another player can then summon you into their world to help you to defeat a boss. You don't need to be human to be able to do that. This dragon isn't too bad, even if you take damage, as long as you stay near the edge of the bridge. You won't take much damage. I'm going to pop down here to kick this ladder down, which once again opens up a shortcut. We've been to this bonfire before, it was one that we started at, but we can now use that ladder as a shortcut to get back up to the dragon, so that we have a nice easy time continuing in the next video. One last thing I will do is one thing that you should always do if you've got a few souls on you, is spend them. I'm going to put another couple of points into vitality and a few points into endurance, make it a little bit easier to manage my stamina throughout the run. There's not a massive need to put any points into strength or dexterity with the weapon that I'm using, because it's only got a C scaling. Any points that I put in strength and dexterity don't do a huge amount to increase the weapon damage, as you can see here. What I would suggest is if you're using the same weapon, really focus more on vitality or endurance. If you've gone with a weapon that's got a good scaling, such as the club, which has got an A scaling in strength, or some of the katanas have got a B scaling in dexterity by default, then feel free to pump points into strength and dexterity, as that will really increase the damage of those weapons. But I would say for a weapon that's got C's and D scaling, it's not really worth putting too many points into strength or dexterity for those. That is it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this useful, and as always, if you've got any comments, leave them in the comments field below, and if you've got any tips for new players, then feel free to leave those as well, and we can continue to build the Dark Souls community. Thanks again for watching. I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.